You've been begging for money your entire life, pleading with the universe, desperately visualizing abundance, repeating affirmations until your throat goes dry, hoping that somehow, some way, the financial breakthrough you need will finally arrive. You've tried every manifestation technique in the book, followed every guru's formula, and yet here you are, still struggling with the same financial patterns that have haunted you for years. But what if I told you that every moment you spend begging for money, you're actually creating what quantum physicists call destructive interference with your desired outcome? What if there's a hidden mechanism in manifestation that most people completely miss, one that transforms begging into what I call quantum pull, where money flows toward you through the natural laws of attraction rather than despite them? Today you're going to discover the reverse manifestation principle, a counterintuitive approach that explains why traditional manifestation often fails with money, and more importantly, how to activate what I call financial quantum entanglement. This isn't another visualization technique or affirmation method. This is about understanding how consciousness interfaces with the quantum field to create material reality. Here's what nobody tells you about why your money manifestations keep failing. Every time you focus on what you lack, every time you feel the desperation of unpaid bills, every time you visualize from a place of need, you're creating what quantum mechanics calls observer interference. Your consciousness isn't just passively observing your financial reality, it's actively collapsing the wave function of infinite financial possibilities into the specific reality that matches your dominant vibrational signature. Think of it like this. You know how a radio works, right? There are countless radio stations broadcasting simultaneously, but you only hear the station you're tuned to. Your consciousness works exactly the same way with money. There are infinite streams of abundance broadcasting through the quantum field right now, but you're only receiving the frequency you're tuned to, and most people have accidentally tuned themselves to the scarcity station. Most people are unknowingly operating from what I call scarcity resonance, a quantum state where your consciousness is entangled with lack rather than abundance. They visualize having money, but underneath that visualization is a fundamental frequency that broadcasts, "I don't have this and I desperately need it." This desperation becomes the primary quantum signature, and the field responds by maintaining that exact relationship between you and money. But here's where it gets interesting, and this is something that changes everything once you understand it. This is where the law of attraction gets completely misunderstood. It's not about positive thinking or even visualization. It's about quantum coherence between your consciousness and your desired outcome. Money isn't attracted to hope or desperation. Money is drawn to what quantum field theory calls resonant frequency matching. When your internal state resonates with abundance rather than lack, you create what I call financial entanglement, where money becomes magnetically drawn to your field. Now, before you think this is getting too complex, let me break this down in a way that anyone can understand. Imagine you're at a party, and there's someone across the room who's desperate for attention. They're trying too hard, talking too loud, following people around. How does that make you feel? Probably uncomfortable, right? You want to get away from that energy. That's exactly how money responds to desperation. It literally repels abundance. But then imagine there's another person at the same party who's genuinely interested in others, asking thoughtful questions, contributing value to every conversation. People naturally gravitate toward them, not because they're trying to get attention, but because their energy is magnetic. That's the difference between begging for money and quantum pulling money into your reality. Think about this from a quantum perspective. In the quantum realm, particles exist in superposition until observed. Your financial reality exists in infinite potential states until your consciousness collapses those possibilities into experience. Most people are unconsciously collapsing abundance into scarcity because their observation is contaminated with fear, doubt, and desperation. But there's something even more profound happening that most people never discover. There's a specific way that consciousness can interface with the quantum field to consistently collapse financial possibilities in your favor. I call this the quantum pull method, and it's based on a principle that most manifestation teachers have never encountered. Instead of trying to attract money to you, You learn to become quantum entangled with abundance itself. Here's how this works at the deepest level. When you shift from trying to get money to becoming someone who generates value, you're not just changing your mindset, you're literally changing your quantum signature. Value creation operates on a different frequency than need-based wanting. When you create value, you're adding energy to the system rather than trying to extract it. And this shift in energetic direction creates what physicists call constructive wave interference with abundance. Let me give you an analogy that makes this crystal clear. Imagine two people at a networking event. The first person walks around with business cards, desperately trying to sell their services to everyone they meet. Can you hire me? Do you need what I offer? Please give me your business. How do you think people respond to that energy? They avoid it, right? Now imagine the second person shows up genuinely curious about others. They ask thoughtful questions, offer helpful insights, and share valuable connections. They're not trying to get anything from anyone. They're focused on how they can contribute. Who do you think leaves that event with more business cards and genuine connections? The person who was trying to get, or the person who was focused on giving? This is exactly how the universe responds to your energy around money. The universe operates on principles of energy exchange. When you approach money from extraction consciousness, asking, "What can I get?" you create resistance in the quantum field. But when you approach from contribution consciousness, asking, "What can I give?" that would naturally generate financial flow, you align with the universe's natural tendency toward increasing complexity and value. This is why some people seem to effortlessly manifest money, while others struggle despite perfect visualization techniques. The effortless manifestors have unconsciously aligned with what I call the abundance frequency, a quantum state where their consciousness is entangled with creation rather than consumption. But here's where the real breakthrough happens, and this is something that will completely transform how you think about manifestation. Let me explain the science behind this. Quantum field theory suggests that consciousness and matter are fundamentally interconnected. Your thoughts aren't separate from physical reality. They're quantum instructions that organize energy into form. When your thoughts are consistently focused on creating value rather than acquiring resources, you send different quantum instructions into the field. This creates what I call the manifestation multiplier effect. Instead of trying to manifest one specific amount of money, you're activating the quantum field to generate multiple streams of abundance through the value you're creating. This is why people who focus on contribution often experience financial results that exceed their original goals. They're not limiting themselves to one outcome, they're opening themselves to infinite possibilities. Now you might be thinking, this sounds great in theory, but how do I actually do this? Well, here's where things get really practical, and this is the part that most people have been waiting for. The technique isn't about changing what you do externally. It's about shifting the quantum frequency from which you operate. This happens through what I call quantum coherence alignment, where every level of your being aligns with abundance rather than lack. The first level is mental coherence. Instead of thoughts focused on needing money, you cultivate thoughts focused on value creation through coherent assumption. But this isn't positive thinking. This is quantum programming, where you're literally instructing the field about what reality to create. Every thought is a quantum command, and most people are unknowingly commanding the asking frequency instead of the pulling frequency. Here's a simple way to understand this. Your brain is like a computer, and your thoughts are the software programs you're running. If you're running a scarcity program all day long, thinking about what you don't have, what you can't afford, how worried you are about bills, then that's the program that creates your reality. But when you consciously choose to run an abundance program focused on value creation and contribution, you literally reprogram your reality. The second level is emotional coherence. Your emotions carry tremendous quantum power because they're the bridge between thought and manifestation. When you feel excited about the value you can create, rather than anxious about money you need, you're transmitting a completely different quantum signature into the field. Think of emotions as the fuel for manifestation. You can have the most beautiful car in the world, but if you put the wrong fuel in it, it won't run properly. Most people are trying to fuel their abundance manifestations with fear, anxiety, and desperation. But those emotions create scarcity, not abundance. The fuel for abundance is excitement, gratitude, and genuine enthusiasm about contributing value to the world. But here's what's really fascinating, and this is where most people break the quantum circuit. The third level is action coherence. Your emotions and thoughts can be perfectly aligned with abundance, but if your actions are still coming from scarcity, you've broken the manifestation circuit. Your actions carry the most quantum weight because they represent your true beliefs about reality. When your actions align with abundance rather than desperation, you complete the quantum circuit that allows manifestation to occur. Let me share a real-world example that illustrates this perfectly. I once knew someone who spent hours every day visualizing financial abundance, feeling grateful for money they didn't have yet, and affirming their worthiness to receive. But then they would go to work and complain about their job, provide mediocre service, and constantly look for ways to do less work for the same pay. Can you see the disconnect? Their thoughts and emotions were programmed for abundance, but their actions were programmed for scarcity. Here's the specific protocol that creates quantum financial entanglement. Each morning, instead of focusing on money you need, ask yourself this quantum question. What value can I create today that would be so compelling that financial exchange becomes inevitable? This isn't just a mindset shift. This is quantum field programming. When you ask this question, you're instructing your consciousness to scan for opportunities to create value rather than opportunities to get money. This subtle shift changes everything because it aligns you with the quantum principle of energy multiplication rather than energy extraction. But there's a deeper layer to this question that most people miss entirely. It's not just about what you can create. It's about what would feel genuinely fulfilling to you to create. When you create value that genuinely excites you, that aligns with your natural gifts and interests, you're not just creating any value. You're creating high-quality, sustainable value that naturally attracts abundance. Then, as you move through your day, practice what I call quantum value broadcasting. In every interaction, every task, every moment, you consciously transmit the frequency of contribution. You're not trying to get anything from anyone. You're looking for ways to add quantum value to every situation. This might sound overwhelming, but it's actually simpler than you think. It could be as basic as really listening when someone is talking to you instead of waiting for your turn to speak. It could be doing your current job with genuine excellence instead of just getting by. It could be asking someone how their day is going and actually caring about the answer. This creates something remarkable in the quantum field. You become what I call a quantum value generator, someone whose very presence increases the energy of any system they enter. When you operate from this frequency, opportunities don't just appear. They become magnetically drawn to your field because you're operating in harmony with the universe's fundamental creative impulse. But here's where quantum manifestation gets really powerful, and this is something that will completely shift your entire experience of abundance. As you consistently operate from value creation consciousness, you begin to develop what I call quantum abundance vision. You start to see opportunities for value creation everywhere, not because new opportunities are being created, but because your consciousness is now tuned to the frequency where these opportunities exist. It's like when you're thinking about buying a red car, and suddenly you start seeing red cars everywhere. The red cars were always there, but your attention wasn't tuned to notice them. When you tune your consciousness to value creation, you start seeing value creation opportunities everywhere, because that's what you're programmed to notice. This is the difference between traditional manifestation and quantum manifestation. Traditional manifestation tries to force the universe to give you something. Quantum manifestation aligns you with the universe's natural abundance flow so that receiving becomes effortless. Now, I know what you might be thinking. This all sounds wonderful, but I have real bills due next week. I need practical solutions, not just theory. And that's completely valid. Here's where most people get confused, thinking that quantum manifestation means ignoring practical reality. But true quantum manifestation includes practical action aligned with abundance consciousness. You can absolutely take care of immediate financial needs through whatever means are available right now, while simultaneously programming the quantum field for long-term abundance. The key is approaching even immediate money-generating activities from quantum pull consciousness rather than desperation consciousness. If you need to find work, approach that search not as "someone please hire me," but as "I'm looking for the perfect match between my value and someone's need." If you need to ask for a raise, approach it not as "I desperately need more money," but as "I've been creating significant value and I'd like our exchange to reflect that." The practical actions might be identical, but the quantum signature is completely different, and that determines what you attract next. When you operate from abundance consciousness, even while taking care of immediate needs, you're programming the field to bring you better and better opportunities that align with your value creation. This brings me to something crucial about quantum manifestation that most people miss entirely. You can't think your way into abundance while taking actions from scarcity, because actions carry quantum weight. When you're truly operating from quantum pull consciousness, your actions automatically align with value creation, because that's what feels most natural. There's another layer to this that creates exponential results, and this is where things get really exciting. As you consistently operate from value creation consciousness, you begin to develop what I call quantum financial intuition. You start receiving quantum guidance about opportunities, investments, and financial decisions that seem to come from nowhere, but consistently prove beneficial. This isn't mystical. This is quantum information processing. When your consciousness is entangled with abundance rather than scarcity, you gain access to quantum information streams that aren't available to scarcity-based consciousness. You begin to know things about financial opportunities before your logical mind understands why. Let me give you a practical example. Someone operating from quantum pull consciousness might get an intuitive hit to call a former colleague, not knowing why. They make the call, and it turns out that colleague has been looking for someone with exactly their skills for a new project. Coincidence, not from a quantum perspective. When you're aligned with abundance, the universe organizes synchronicities to support your flow. But perhaps the most profound aspect of quantum pull manifestation is that it resolves the deepest blocks to financial abundance. Most people have unconscious resistance to money because they fear it will change them, separate them from loved ones, or make them greedy. These fears create quantum interference that blocks manifestation no matter what techniques they use. When you approach abundance through value creation, these fears naturally dissolve because you're not trying to get money for selfish reasons. You're aligning with abundance to increase your capacity to serve, contribute, and create positive impact. This removes the unconscious resistance that sabotages most manifestation efforts. The quantum field responds to this purified intention by opening pathways to abundance that feel completely aligned with your values. You start receiving money in ways that feel good, through work that matters to you, serving people you genuinely want to help. This creates what I call the quantum abundance loop. The more abundance you receive, the more capacity you have to create value. The more value you create, the more abundance flows to you. This isn't just a positive feedback loop, it's quantum entanglement with the universe's creative evolutionary impulse. Here's the advanced quantum technique that accelerates this entire process. Each evening before sleep, practice what I call quantum gratitude broadcasting. Instead of being grateful for money you hope to receive, broadcast gratitude for opportunities to create value that you experienced that day, no matter how small. This does something profound in the quantum field. Gratitude is one of the highest quantum frequencies, and when you broadcast gratitude for value creation opportunities, you're programming the field to provide more of them. You're literally quantum ordering more opportunities to contribute and serve. When you practice this consistently, something extraordinary happens. Your entire relationship with money transforms from need-based to service-based. You stop seeing money as something you lack and start experiencing it as energy that flows through your contribution to life. This shift resolves one of the biggest paradoxes in manifestation. The more you need money, the harder it is to attract. But the more you focus on creating value, the more money flows naturally as a result. This isn't a universal test of your worthiness. This is quantum mechanics in action. But there's an even deeper level that creates what I call quantum wealth consciousness, and this is where everything we've discussed comes together in a profound realization. At this level, you realize that you're not separate from abundance. You are abundance expressing itself through form. You're not someone who needs money. You're someone through whom abundance flows to create positive impact in the world. This recognition completely transforms how you relate to financial opportunities. You stop calculating whether something will make you money and start asking whether it aligns with your quantum signature of value creation. Paradoxically, this approach generates far more abundance than directly chasing money ever could. The universe is constantly seeking to express greater creativity, beauty, and value through conscious beings. When you align yourself with this creative impulse, you become a channel for universal abundance. Money flows not because you're getting something, but because you're giving the universe a way to express its creative potential through your unique gifts. But here's what happens at the practical level when you've fully integrated these principles. Money stops being a source of stress and becomes a source of excitement. Instead of worrying about whether you'll have enough, you get excited about what you'll be able to create and contribute. Instead of checking your bank account with anxiety, you check it with curiosity about how the universe is organizing abundance around your value creation. You start making financial decisions from a place of creative possibility rather than fearful limitation. Instead of asking, "Can I afford this?" you ask, "Will this investment help me create more value in the world?" This shift in questioning creates completely different results because you're operating from a completely different quantum frequency. You begin to attract financial opportunities that align with your passions and values, rather than settling for whatever you can get. You start working with people you genuinely enjoy serving, rather than anyone willing to pay you. Your financial life becomes an expression of your highest self, rather than a compromise of your values. This is the ultimate secret of quantum financial manifestation, and this is what most people never discover. You're not trying to convince the universe to give you money. You're offering yourself as a vehicle for the universe's abundance to flow into the world through your value creation. When you make this shift, scarcity becomes impossible because you've aligned yourself with the source of all abundance. The technique I've shared today will work if you apply it consistently. But remember that quantum manifestation requires patience with the process. You're literally rewiring decades of scarcity programming and aligning with completely new quantum frequencies. Trust the process. Focus on value creation, and allow the universe to surprise you with how creatively it can deliver abundance through your service to life. Some days the shift will feel obvious and powerful. Other days you might feel like nothing is happening. Both experiences are normal parts of quantum reprogramming. The key is consistency. Every day you choose value creation over scarcity thinking, you're building quantum momentum toward abundance. Remember, you're not just changing your financial situation, you're evolving into a completely new version of yourself, someone who creates rather than consumes, someone who contributes rather than extracts, someone who generates abundance rather than begging for it. This transformation touches every area of your life, not just money. Drop one word in the comments that represents your commitment to shifting from begging consciousness to quantum pull consciousness. This isn't about manifesting through comments, but about quantum programming your intention and creating accountability for this profound transformation.